Before we begin, Bjorn, would it be possible to have item 4 before item 3?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Joanne, we'll be ready for you sooner.
Let me know, Steph, when you think we're good to go.
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to this Sonoma County Transportation and Climate Authority's Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting for May 26th. We will start with a quick round of introductions, starting with those in the room.
Hi, Gavin Waters, citizen rep from Sebastopol.
Edie Takata, City of Owner Park.
Andrew Peters, Town of Windsor Public Works.
Kurt Bates, City of Healdsburg.
Chris Barney, SCTCA.
Steph Britt, SCTCA.
Dana Trey, SCTCA.
Chris Cohn, SCTCA.
Adam Garcia, SCTCA.
All right. And online let's start with maybe folks from the committee first. I'm Bjorn Griebenberg, City of Petaluma.
I'm Elizabeth Tyree from Sonoma County Regional Parks.
JP Harris, City of Cotati.
Alexandro Segura, City of Santa Rosa.
Great. I think that's it for committee members who are joining us online today. And I can't recall what our normal protocol is for members of the public who are joining online. Do you have any preference, stuff?
Don, could we read them out? I can do it too. I see Joanne Parker from SMART, Christina Panza from SCBC, and Margot Cañas, SCTCA, and Ross Clendenin, SCTCA.
Great. Thank you all for joining. Our first item is approval of the meeting notes from April 2026. Unless anyone has any comments or edits to request, we will assume that those are approved as included in the agenda. Taking a moment. Looks like we don't have any hands up. And our next item, 2.2, is public comment on any items not on today's agenda.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Sorry. I believe we need to do a roll call vote.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. For the meeting notes. Okay.
Yeah, since we have remote and in person, we have to do it.
Right.
Alrighty.
Do we need to have a motion then if we do a roll call vote?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Kurt?
I'll second it. Can I do that online?
Sorry, let me just make sure I got Kurt from Healdsburg as a motion and Edie as a second. Okay. And then I'll start the roll call. I've got Rafael Miranda, absent. John Paul Harries.
Yes.
Michael Harrigan. Kurt Bates. Bjorn.
Yes.
Alexander Oseguera.
Yes.
Edie Takata. Gavin Waters.
Yes.
Jennifer Gates. Andrew Peters.
Yes.
Elizabeth Tyree.
Yes.
And I believe that's everybody. We're complete. Roll call is complete.
Great. Thank you. So we will go ahead and go to 2.2, which is public comment on items not on the regular agenda. And I do see a hand up from Christina Panza.
Hi, everybody. A couple things. First, I just wanted to make sure everyone is aware that Bike Fest is this Sunday, May 31st at Somo Village, and there will be a free helmet giveaway while supplies last for kids, a kiddical mass ride, a whole bunch of great stuff happening that day. But we shared the info with our school partners this week and or today actually. And yeah, I hope we get great attendance there. I also wanted everybody to know that we have embarked on bike counts at all the middle schools and high schools in Sonoma County, the public middle schools and high schools, to determine the share of bikes versus e-bicycles versus e-motos and e-scooters, to, have some insight into uh, that data. It's really helpful. I mean, we talked about this at I think the last meeting or maybe at the Vision Zero meeting. And I actually wasn't even aware until we started doing the counts of what a large share of the e-devices that are illegal are. I mean, there are just like the largest share of any e-device is an e-moto at every school that we've gone to. More regular bikes and e-bikes in most cases, but not in all cases. Petaluma Junior High had more illegal e-motos than regular bikes. So I think this is really important data to share, and we'll be sharing it with all of our, all of you and all of our school and school district partners in the hopes of establishing some policy around illegal e-devices in schools and in jurisdictions. So I will keep you all informed about that. I have a spreadsheet that I can share. I already shared with Bjorn that it's a living document, and we basically have all of the data that we shared with the schools so far. And then we have a worksheet for each school, kind of with pictures of the e-motos and e-devices in them. We worked with this a retired attorney and e-bicycle advocate named Bob Middlestead, who has done these counts in San Mateo, Santa Clara, and Marin County, and has been doing a lot of work to advocate for common sense policy around illegal e-devices, and has done presentations all over the Bay Area in multiple jurisdictions, along with Gwen Froh from the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. And we hope to do some outreach here as well. We have it on our agenda for our Santa Rosa Safe Routes to School Task Force meeting in June, and we hope to have a task force meeting in Petaluma in August. And again, we'd like to kind of, get that information out in any ways that we can in other jurisdictions as well. So please reach out to me if you would like to arrange for a presentation or to pull together a task force meeting in your jurisdiction to agendize this topic. Let me know if you have questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the update and all of the data collection. That'll be really important, obviously, to inform all of the kind of as people weigh how to address this either through local regulation or even state legislation.
And just one last thing, the data is just a snapshot. We're just doing one day. It is May, so it's kind of a good time to kind of see what those bike counts are. But it is a snapshot, and it likely could change again in August or September.
All righty. Do we have any other public comments? Don't see any in the room. I'm assuming none in the room. I don't see any online. So with that, we will move to, we're going to reshuffle the agenda and go to item 4, the complete streets checklist for the SMART Cloverdale extension. And I believe I'm handing this off to Joanne Parker from SMART.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to present this. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say because I've never done one of these in person or online live with you all. But As you all know, MTC requires everybody to check a bunch of boxes to be able to apply for funds that are designed to ensure that we're accommodating bikes in everything we do. And we have, for the northern part of our line, we're building the rail and pathway in conjunction with each other as we secure funding, and have want to go through this step of requesting clearance for the remainder of the project through the Complete Streets checklist process so that we can have this available to MTC when we ask for letters of support. In the southern part of the corridor, we have requested and secured similar bike committee Complete Streets checklist concurrence for the remaining pathway segments that are infill pathway, so that we, again, as we go out and seek grant funds, are able to provide that checklist to MTC so they can review and hopefully can support our efforts in an expeditious manner. Don't know if anybody has any questions about the content of the project, but I'm not sure what else to ask for from the committee. Bjorn, help me out.
No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the goal with the Complete Streets checklist and MTC's Complete Streets policy, for those who aren't aware, is really just to ensure that any projects delivered with regional funding are adhering to MTC's Complete Streets policy. They updated that a couple of years ago, and really it places strong emphasis on designing for people of all ages and abilities. As you can imagine, for an off-street multi-use pathway, that is inherently something that accommodates people of all ages and abilities. And so would assume that this project definitely complies with the Complete Streets requirements from MTC. But I think with that, we kind of turn it over to the group for any questions about the project or how it may adhere to the requirements. I see JP, is your hand up?
Yeah, actually, it's really just a question out of curiosity. The checklist looks fine to me, but I noticed that the project description says you're building one new passenger rail station in each of the following cities, and it included Cloverdale. Doesn't Cloverdale already have a fairly substantial rail station there?
It does have a station there. It's not a station that can be used by our current fleet.
Oh, really?
So, as technology changes, it remains to be seen whether that station could be used by a different fleet type, but we'll, in some capacity, probably always have to have a 48-inch height platform for our core system.
I see. Okay. And I didn't realize that Emily left and is now with the Sonoma County Transit, so that was interesting.
That's really why I brought this item to you guys, so you could notice that Emily is now the transit manager for Sonoma County Transit. So gratefully, because I think it's a great opportunity to fine tune the system oriented around us. Makes it easy for me anyway.
This is Gavin Waters from Sebastopol. You mentioned that the existing stations can't be used with your current fleet. Why does SMART not have fleet infrastructure or fleet vehicles that can be used with the existing infrastructure?
So that's only the Cloverdale station, which was built as mitigation for the highway widening in the mid-90s. And that was built to Caltrans's design standards. Everything else is fully integrated with our fleet.
So does the station, is the station included in the Complete Streets checklist, or is it just for the pathway?
The future station construction and the pathway, and quite frankly, the entirety of the system in terms of integration with the street crossings, the grade crossings, is part of the project. Part of the Complete Streets checklist.
And what is SMART doing to integrate with existing buses and transit in Cloverdale and other cities?
So it varies by site. For the remainder of the extensions, we're hoping we have a bit of a complexity in that where the city of Healdsburg wants to host the station, There's no direct cross-platform bus connectivity, but for the Cloverdale site, the state of California is trying to ultimately make that an intermodal hub for the North Coast Amtrak Route 7, Humboldt, Mendocino County connectivity into the smart system. So we'll have expanded bus capacity when we build out there. Right now, there is a bus intermodal facility at the existing station parking lot. So, it's a bit fluid because it's not fully designed yet, but the goal is to have bus connectivity at every location. Healdsburg is a bit of a challenge because we can't serve the depot or the Hudson Street site with buses, with full-size buses, which are the required size in order to serve the North County. So it will have to be a Healdsburg Avenue bus facility walk over to the smart station.
Well, I took the smart train to this meeting today. I flew
great.
into STS Airport this morning from
Nice.
San Diego, and I have to say it was extremely difficult to get from the airport to the smart station using the Smart Connect shuttle. That did not work well at all. And then when I got to Santa Rosa, there was absolutely no buses anywhere to be seen at the Santa Rosa train station. So I just walked here through the mall, I might add, which, obscenely takes up the entire block of that portion of 4th Street.
Yeah, for your Smart Connect activities, I would recommend that you provide your comment on it direct to our customer outreach people so they can integrate what your experience was.
Yeah, I tried to call them from the station because I also couldn't figure out how to load a Clipper card to get onto the train, but I was directed towards the Valley Transportation Authority instead of the Smart customer service. So also
through the 511 number?
That's correct.
Good to know.
But I will be following up. Thanks.
Yes, please. Thank you. So they sent you to VTA, Valley Trans.
Well, I hung up before I got there, but yeah,
Okay.
they were transferring me
To
because I
VTA
figured
or Valley Link?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
VTA, I believe, Valley Transportation Authority.
Yeah, that's San Jose. Okay, that's good to know. In terms of the connectivity around the individual stations, it's not just a smart issue, it's a local transit and local jurisdiction issue, varies by location. So we recognize that there are imperfections in the system. I would say that there, I'm not sure what to say about that. That's a collective own goal in some cases. So not one that's easily rectifiable without a complete rework of the first last mile infrastructure, but we do recognize that it's a challenge.
I would propose that the SCTCA be a good body to mitigate the differences between the smart system and the local transportation systems.
I leave that to SCTCA members present to
And I
comment.
think, yeah, I think we might be going a little astray here because we do want to focus this on the complete streets checklist for the Cloverdale extension. But it is good to, obviously always good to connect with agency staff. Any other comments on the complete or questions on the complete streets checklist? And I'll just, Joanne, is the pathway envisioned along the full rail alignment for that stretch?
Yes, the Great Redwood Trail. Mm-hmm.
Great. Awesome.
Yep. I mean, there may be a need to separate for individual grants and funding because, as you know, we construct all our pathway sections and extensions almost 100% with grant funds. So, there'll be a little piecemealing here and there, but the goal is to deliver simultaneous.
Wonderful. Well, it's exciting to see all the work underway up north, and obviously there's still more to come getting up to Cloverdale. I know this item does not require a vote. I think it's more of a review, provide feedback. So any final comments from the group? All right. Seeing none, I think we consider this Complete Streets checklist reviewed and move on to the next item.
Thank you all for
Joanne.
your time. I'll pass along the 511 issues.
Thanks.
So our next item is under regional planning. It's an update on the comprehensive transportation plan from Chris Barney.
Thanks, Bjorn, and good afternoon, everyone. Let me go ahead and bring up the slides for this. So I'm going to be giving an update on the final CTP. So we're actually in final design for the plan. So it'll be out in the next few weeks. And we received a lot of great comments. So thank you so much for all the comments we received during the comment period for the plan. We've been able to address and incorporate some of those comments in our current final version of the CTP, and then have noted a lot of those for a future plan update. So we'll try and get to as much as we can in future cycles as well. So let me go ahead and get this going. So it's just a quick review. The Comprehensive Transportation Plan is a guiding document that we update every 4 or 5 years at our agency. It includes a vision and goals that we use to guide our planning and also funding work at the agency. I'll go ahead and move on to the schedule. So we kicked this all off back in 2024, and we're wrapping it up with the final plan going to our board of directors on June 8th. So we've been involved in public outreach the entire that entire time period, including getting out into the community, talking to people about the plan. We had a number of webinars and web-based workshops. We had an online survey that was going throughout the entire period of the work on the plan. And then we had a public rollout workshop in January, and that kicked off the public comment period and was when the draft plan was released. So we also provided a progress report on the vision and goals in 2024. We updated our performance assessment through 2024 and 2025. We updated the project list. So the call for projects for the CDP was released back in 2024. We received a number of new projects and updated project information for projects that were in the last CDP. And then our projects and programming team kicked off the SCTCA funding program cycle 2 call for projects last summer. And those projects are being scored right now. And we'll be using that information and the priority projects identified through that process to compile and release a near-term implementation plan for the CDP later this year. We've been working on the draft and final CDP last year through this year. The draft CDP was released in January. Public comments went through late March, and then we compiled the final CDP using those comments, and the final will be released in the next week or so. So just to review our vision and goals. So the CTP vision is really focused on connecting people with where they want to go while moving towards a zero emissions transportation system, while at the same time considering safety, equity, and quality of life all along the way. So our goals were identified as ways of reaching that vision. So first, we're striving to make our transportation system connected and reliable. So again, focusing on those connections to where people want to go, and also making sure that people can travel easily, affordably, and dependably. Second, we're working to make our transportation system safer and better maintained. So our infrastructure is one of the biggest assets we have and want to make sure that we maintain that. Sonoma County is also very diverse. So our third goal is focused on individual communities and places. So we have very rural areas and urbanized areas in the county. So the transportation needs for those different communities are different. So the plan includes a variety of different approaches to address transportation needs there. And then again, we're working towards a zero emissions transportation network by 2050. So, sorry, going the wrong direction here. So that is our final CTP goal. So I'll be talking about some broad categories of comments we received on the CTP and some of the changes that we made to the final to incorporate some of that feedback and those comments. So, and I'll break that into two different pieces, one focused on our board of director comments and the second section focusing on public and advisory committee feedback on those. And I'll walk through those in more detail in the next few slides. The plan was updated to address all of those comments, correct errors, and then we added recommendations for future study and CTP updates. And we did keep all of those comments, and we'll work on addressing those in future CTP cycles as well.
So, Chris, quick question, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
When did the board first look at the draft and provide comments?
That went to our board of directors at the March board meeting. Yeah. But we did notify them that the draft was available well in advance of that. So they had about a month and a half to 2 months of review period before that hearing at the board. So digging into our board of director comments, and I'll be touching on major themes. So one that they were very interested in, and this lines up very well with the comments we received from Christina from the Bicycle Coalition. There's a lot of interest in e-devices, safety and coordination, including e-bikes, e-motos, e-scooters, the differences between those, and concerns with safety and coordinating education, having municipal codes and rules that are aligned across jurisdictional boundaries, and collecting better data. So it's great to hear that Safe Routes to School is collecting information about the devices that are in use. Our board's very interested also in getting better data from public safety on what types of devices are involved in crashes involving bikes and pedestrians. So we've included that as a recommendation in the CTP to work with public safety and local agencies to coordinate on that data collection to identify what types of devices are involved and get a better handle on how these may be impacting safety. We've also added recommendations to coordinate on municipal codes and rules associated with the different devices.
I'm sorry, is the board's concern that some of these devices are unsafe to operate, or is the board's concern that the roads are not safe for these devices to operate on?
I would say they're more concerned with these devices are not safe to be operated by certain population groups.
Does that fall under the purview of the CTP at all?
We can provide information and make recommendations. So we can't make rules, but we can help convene groups together and talk about coordination. So, but we don't set rules.
Yeah, it just seems curious that the board would be concerned about the safety of the devices versus the safety of the infrastructure that the devices operate on, because that seems like it would more be the purview of the SCTCA. But you know, I think probably other regulators would look at how the devices are safe, or they used safely, or
yeah,
what kind of speeds can they go and so forth.
Yeah, I would say it's more the use of the devices, not the technology. I know the state is actually working on that specifically, but yeah, the conversation at our board meeting was really focused on young users using them, people not using helmets, things like that. So we've included information in the plan and recommendations to coordinate on this. So yeah, I'll go ahead and move on if there are no other questions on this. I saw a hand raised.
I bumped it accidentally.
Okay. So the next major issue that our board was interested in was in traffic speeds and traffic calming. and wanted us to include more information on best practices, policies, and resources for speed reduction. There's actually a lot going on right now in this area, and SCTCA has been involved in this quite a bit. And there are concerns that we need consistent speed limits across jurisdictional boundaries. So there's a desire to coordinate between rural and incorporated areas to make sure that you're not going from a 25-mile-per-hour road to a higher speed or lower speed road. So in response to that, we added a lot of information on what's going on in the county. There's a speed limit reduction guidebook that we produced. So we included information to that and other state, local, and regional resources focused on traffic calming, speed reductions, and speed management.
Chris, was there any discussion at all about having Caltrans update their guidelines for speed management devices on Caltrans roads, which I also think is the standard for the state, right? For all municipalities as well.
Yeah, are you asking about speed limit signs specifically?
No, traffic calming devices like, for example, chicanes, I don't think are part of the Caltrans guidelines right now.
Yeah. We actually included links to the Caltrans guidelines and other resources, but we didn't include any recommendations for changes to those at this time.
I think that, the SCTCA board would be in a good position to pressure an organization like Caltrans to come to modern standards for those things.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate the comment.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I dropped a link in the chat, and I believe Chris provided this link in the actual CDP document, but Caltrans traffic calming guide does include a variety of traffic calming measures, including chicanes as potential options to include in the state highway system. We are very limited on the influence we can have on Caltrans. We do a good amount of advocacy and partnership with Caltrans to influence the design of their projects, but our board is very limited in what they can do to try to force the state to do something that they don't want to do.
All right. Thanks, David. So moving on to the last item that our board was very interested in, Highway 37, which is a major regional connector in Sonoma County, was a topic of discussion and interest. And our board's main interest in this area was including more information on who's using the corridor. So we do have information that we collected a number of years ago that does include estimates for who's using the corridor. So we pulled that information in and provided links to outside resources as well. So moving on to the major comment themes that we heard from the public and our advisory committees. The first is that we heard broad support for our vision and goals, but there were questions about the feasibility of those goals, the urgency we're taking in working to achieve those, and the level of action we need to implement them. And we heard two kind of conflicting trains of comments here. One is that we aren't doing enough to reduce transportation-related emissions. And on the other side, we heard concerns that GHG reduction goals will distract from improving and preserving our roadways. So two different types of comments in direct conflict. The CTP does seek to address both of those. So we did include additional references to supportive planning efforts, actions and programs like our active transportation plan, our transit integration work, regional transportation plan, land use policy. We added recommendations for research and policy development for future planning cycles associated with both of these. And our plan does include a pavement management project for each jurisdiction that includes a large amount of estimated funding to maintain our road infrastructure. And about 70% of the projects in the CDP are focused directly on greenhouse gas reduction. So we're trying to make a dent in both of these, but we do recognize that there are a variety of opinions in the county on what we should prioritize, GHG reduction or road quality. So The next major theme that we heard is desire for a clear, more concise, action-oriented plan. So the plan's quite long and quite dense. It's about 120 pages in the body of the plan. There's a few reasons why the plan is so long. We've included a lot of reference material currently in the plan that SCTCA staff uses quite frequently in our planning and other work. It's also used quite often by other outside agencies. So that is valuable, but we recognize it is pretty dense and difficult to get through, and it makes it harder to get to the action and recommendations of the plan. So we reformatted the implementation chapter, which is the final chapter, to highlight our recommendations by each goal. We added a few more recommendations based on feedback from the public and our board. And we also added recommendations for future work. And for the future planning cycles, we'll consider taking some of that reference material out of the actual plan and putting it in a companion document or in the appendices to make it easier to get to the goals and recommendations of the plan. So again, from the public and our committees, we heard strong support for improving safety, traffic calming, speed limit reduction, and coordination on those electric mobility devices. So our board was also interested in that. So we added additional content and policy recommendations focused on that. There is also a lot of content in the active transportation plans and Vision Zero action plan associated with each of those items. So we also heard calls for improved transit reliability, integration, smart expansion, and a more complete active transportation network. That's a major focus of the CTP. There are many, many transit and active transportation improvements included in the CTP. It's a major focus. And we added additional outside links to all of that transit integration work, first last mile improvement work, and active transportation work underway in the county. So the last two major themes that we heard about, again, concerns with congestion in major travel corridors like Highway 37 and Highway 12. So the CTP does include some improvement projects in these corridors that could relieve some congestion. But I'd also say that the plan includes policies and programs that could further reduce travel demand and congestion in the corridors. So, and then finally, we received requests for clear greenhouse gas reduction strategies, EV infrastructure planning, looking at grid capacity, freight shifts, and getting ready for emerging technologies. So we have included quite a bit of reference information on each of these items in the plan. That does kind of add to that reference material. So we'll have to weigh that going forward on how much we include. But there is a lot of information in there. Appendix 10 highlights a variety of different greenhouse gas reducing actions we could specifically take. And then this year we'll be kicking off our climate mobilization strategy that'll dig specifically into greenhouse gas reduction and what we can do in the near term to make progress in that area. So I mentioned that we'll also be compiling a near-term implementation plan. The CTP is a 25-year planning document, so it looks out to the future. The project list is also financially unconstrained, so only about $5 billion of the $17 billion of need in the plan is currently funded. We know it's important to look at what we can do in the next 5 to 10 years. So we'll be compiling a near-term implementation plan later this year that'll look at those priority projects that are identified through the SCTCA funding program cycle 2 scoring. That information will be coming out later this summer. We'll also take a look at the funding and implementation landscape for the next 5 to 10 years. We'll make some short-term policy recommendations, and we're looking to release that later this fall and winter. So with that, I'd just say that the final CTP will be released in the next week or so. And we'll be updating this again, probably starting scoping next year and kicking off another update in 2028. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap things up and turn it back over to the committee for any comments or questions.
So Chris, how many of the projects detailed in the plan are focused on active transportation vice automobile transportation?
I just took a look at that earlier today. I looked specifically at GHG reducing projects, which include transit and active transportation. It's just over 70% of all of the projects in the plan. There are 328 projects in the plan. It's about 240 are specifically active in transit projects. And then from a cost perspective, the total need identified in the plan is around 17 billion, and it's just over 19 billion in cost for those transit and active projects. So, but there's a table in the projects chapter of the plan. It's chapter 5 that breaks down all of those different categories. So if you're interested specifically in active projects, it'll include a breakdown there. And once the final plan is adopted, we'll include an electronic version of all the projects on the website. We have one there. It's pretty much the same as was in the draft, but we'll update that. So there'll be a searchable and a list you can filter online as well.
So other than repaving projects, which I would assert probably benefits many modes of transportation, not just automobiles, are there any kind of like road expansion projects, highway expansion?
So I would say all the road and highway projects are primarily focused on climate adaptation, on safety, and local operations. So we don't include any new lane expansions on highways. It's, the shift has really moved away from adding capacity to focusing on safety and operations. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. I know it's been a lot of work to get to this point. Any other questions in the group? I don't see any online. And just with that, the near-term implementation section, I'm not sure if I missed something or if that sounds like that might be kind of a new section of the plan. Will that influence any future cycles of the SCTA funding program? Can you kind of speak to how those two, this document and that, I mean, obviously this is updated every, 5 years, and we can probably expect another funding program cycle in a couple of years. Will there be any impact there?
Yes, thanks for that question. We've never done the near-term implementation plan before, and it's not in the current plan. It'll be a supplemental document that'll come out later this year. It's not intended to influence future funding programs or scoring. It'll basically be reporting out on the results of funding program cycle 2. So looking at those high priority projects and then making some supplementary and complementary policy recommendations as well for the next 5 to 10 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, it looks like unless there's any further discussion, we can close that item and move on to item 5, updates. And first up is the roundtable discussion. Anyone have anything exciting or new to share?
I'll kick it off if we're going to start here in the room. So I did want to share that I've been working in San Diego for the last 30 days, and I opted to rent a bicycle there instead of a car. It's been working out really well. Transportation infrastructure for cycles and public transit has improved a lot in San Diego since I lived there in 2004. But I thought it would be an interesting thing to share here that I had done that. And I also wanted to share that my experience coming from the airport this morning, which you've already heard a little bit about, but was kind of disappointing and lackluster. Very, very difficult to navigate. And, I'd say I'm probably above average in terms of being able to find my way around things. So you can imagine what it's like for people that are not interested in this sort of thing. But also disappointing to have to walk through the mall on my way here from the SMART station to the SCTCA headquarters. So. That's it. No updates from Sebastopol.
I have one update for Healdsburg. We've been working with SCTCA for a while now and consultant and did a speed limit reduction study. And we've been behind on starting implementation for a handful of reasons, but we're ready to go now. So we anticipate over the next month or so that we'll be lowering the speed limits on those segments identified in Healdsburg, which primarily includes most of the arterials, collectors, the downtown area, and then the school zones when children are present. Again, probably in the next month or so. So we're excited to finally get around to that. That's all I got. Thank you.
Congrats on that. I know that's always a big lift, especially with the new state legislation on speed limit setting. Let's see, any other updates to share either in the room or online? I'll share one just to add on to some of the comments from Christina earlier in the meeting around the counts that she has been collecting at some of the schools around different bike types. We have our police chief actually did reach out to the 3 superintendents we have in Petaluma to either start or continue discussion around banning e-motos from school campuses. And so we will be hopefully having those conversations. It does turn out that most, if not all, the districts already have some sort of prohibition of motorcycles on their campuses, and that these rules are already likely in place, just not necessarily being enforced. So obviously some education needed not only with parents who are buying illegal e-motos for their kids, but also with school staff. And hopefully we can have that conversation on, identifying these bikes and hopefully addressing it that way, if not through if it's not being addressed at home. So that's something that we'll be working on in the coming months as we continue to see kind of the same uptick in that behavior that was described earlier, just around pretty dangerous riding habits on illegal e-motos. I see Alexander has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that recently we did a little bit of data analytics on like 7 or 8 of our road dieted areas throughout the city. I think we've done close to 7 or 8 within the last, at least at a minimum 5 years. We did before and after data. Collisions were a mixed bag based on what types of facilities were put out there. So more where we had protected bike lanes and things of that nature, things were definitely down. But in places where we had just added buffered bike lanes and things like that, it seemed like the collisions stayed very similar where they were before. So the emphasis in the future will be on adding more protections, I think, because it seems to be working. But one of the other things to note was that pretty much in every single location where we'd done a road diet, the speeds had been reduced. This is just going from our speed survey data. So that's just a blip in time. So it doesn't really give us a full picture, but on a certain day, of the week, right, when we're doing these engineering traffic surveys that we do every so often, so 5 to 7 years, we were able to look at before and after. And because we had dropped so many of our speed limits recently, we had just done a bunch of speed surveys, so we were able to do a lot of the before and after, and all of them had lowered their speeds. So if you think about that in thinking about KSIs, speed reductions, it's only going to help lower those severe injuries that happen.
Pretty surprising to hear that the collisions didn't go down more. You would expect, at least, especially certain types of collisions, right? Like anything that's happening mid-block, you'd expect to go down pretty significantly with a lane reduction, ped collisions, broadsides, anything that kind of associated with that multi-threat conflict. But that's interesting. Yeah, if you're able to share any of that.
Yeah, got a whole slide deck full of that. We presented it to our BPAB last week. Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, cool.
Quick question for Alex. You said KSI. What does that refer to?
Yeah, it's just severe injuries, collisions, right?
Is the K killed?
I believe it's right. Killed or severely injured.
Oh, okay. Just curious. And if I could follow on, I happened to walk past the right turn lanes thing in front of the mall on my way here. Do you have any updates on that project or the pedestrianization of 4th Street?
I do not. There's no update. And the right turn is different from the lane that would be going through and by where the hand used to be, and the parking that's going to be there. Those are two different projects. So the right turn is going to be happening, like it is happening, obviously, because there's active construction out there. But I forget what happened to that extra lane and parking that was going to go through that area in front of the mall.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like that is it for updates. And our next item is our next round of updates are on micromobility.
I could just chime in very quickly about the Redwood Bike Share program. Not too much to report, but we did hit 20,000 rides at the beginning of this month system-wide. So that's a big milestone. And good to see ridership continue to increase across the system. We do have some new flyers. I have a stack of them here if anybody wants to take them. If you have a place in your city's office, if you have bike share in your city and you want to grab some, feel free to take some. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And our last update item is on the shared loaner equipment.
Adam's coming.
All right. Yep. Just to let everyone know, we have our 2 people counters and 2 bike ped counters available for rent. I know we've had some interest from Alexander coming up to do some studies, but just as a reminder, these are great opportunities if you do have a bicycle facility project coming up where you want to be able to demonstrate the before and after. Getting those before counts is really crucial in making the case, the importance and effectiveness of new bicycle facilities. So, and then of course, following up with then an after construction survey as well. So some best practices to follow. So if you have any interest, please let me know and would be happy to help you.
Thank you, Adam. All right, any closing announcements or any other updates to share? All righty. Well, I think we can go ahead and adjourn then. And our next meeting is when, looks like July 28th. So we'll see you all then.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.